Hi folks, and welcome back to the allotment. Another unseasonably warm day. I've been in the Polytunnel for about 1 minute and I am sweating. It's far too hot, so let's go outside. And what's the plan today? Well, I think we just do a bit of a catch-up, really, an informal thing. I have no plan whatsoever. I'm hoping to get some stuff done. I've had a bit of a lie-in. It's a lazy Sunday for me. And it just feels like a really long time since I just kind of swung the camera around the plot a little bit. And to be honest, you might have noticed fewer videos, and I was just I kind of lost that gardening mojo, you know. It's kind of like, there's a lot of gardeners with less fear, I think. And when I first started gardening, I tell you what, the first few times it happened, I was like panicking, you know. I was like, am I ever going to want to go to the allotment again? Am I ever going to enjoy it again? And as the seasons have gone on, I've just become much more used to this being a part of the gardening season, you know. You have times like today where I come to the allotment and I'm just like, this is perfect, this is exactly where I want to be. And other times you have days where you just come up here and you're like looking around at all the stuff to do and you're like, why am I here? I don't want to be here. And then you go home. And I know that doesn't happen for everyone, but I think there was definitely something in the air the past few weeks, because almost every single gardener I spoke to was feeling the exact same way, just a bit sort of down, a bit sort of like, you know. And I think it's probably quite linked to that change of the seasons, and we had lots of dark, kind of miserable weather. And last week I really wasn't here much at all. I did just come up and do one evening in the Polytunnel. That was it. Like one day that week, I think, and another day I just came up to check the peppers, which is very unlike me, but let me give you a little bit of a Polytunnel catch-up to start with, I guess. I have nearly got the second door on. Nearly. Say nearly because for some reason, so this frame, it kind of slips onto four bolts, four sort of bolt heads that go into the top of the wooden frame there. And then the idea is you just slide it across. However, it really doesn't want to slide. It's extremely stubborn. And it's one of those things where the bolts are kind of in now, the holes are drilled, and they were already pre-drilled, so it's just a bit of brute forcing. I've been making some progress with a block and hammer. I don't know if that moved at all today. It was at one point just refusing to go on that final bolt, but maybe with a bit more of that and a bit more perseverance we can get that on and then just slide the door in. I just washed that back and it looked like we did manage to move it about 1 centimetre, so that's good. It's one of those things where now it's on as well, I can't get it off. It's not coming off really, so hey-ho, one of those things. We'll get it. The main work I've been doing in the tunnel though is starting on this path. And earlier during the week, oh my God, I was here for so long. I got one slab laid. There's a lot to go. There's an awful lot to go. But one of the reasons that this was so difficult is because, of course, it's been incredibly dry in here ever since I put the cover on, which was, I don't know how long ago, but quite a long time. So this ground is like concrete. It's kind of already compacted grass paths as well, with a lot of clay. It's all a bit of a recipe for disaster. So I've got a little clip of what I ended up doing in here, and yeah, it was an awful lot of work just to get this out. But yesterday when I was up doing the cover crop stuff, I did give this a really good soaking. I just left the hose on in here and I had a little look earlier, and this is already so much easier. To be honest, I kind of wish that I just soaked it that first time I was up here. But then again, with the mood being up and down, I think it's good to just do what you can when you can. You know, I know I've said that before. So there's quite a bit more to dig out here. The main reason I have to dig it out is because if I put slabs on here, at the moment, I've said before, I'm only short, I'm sort of 5'7", and if I put the slabs on here, I'll be crouching around every time I go in. And I probably wouldn't bang my head, but you never know. I just don't want to be in this tunnel feeling the whole time like I'm kind of crouched down and it's uncomfortable and your back starts to hurt. I want to be able to comfortably stand and not worry about bashing stuff with my head. So I think it's worthwhile getting this right. And the really tough stuff kind of stops about here. You can see this is the old path that went across So I've got to do a lot of digging on this side. So plans for the polytunnel. The idea is this is going to be a raised bed of sorts. Once again, because of the height, I can't raise it too high. And as I've showed before, the depth of the soil here is, you know, down to about 4 inches in places before you hit the hard clay. So some bits of the bed, I think sort of around here, isn't actually too bad. But once I've done the path, I'm going to be doing a bit of digging in here to see how deep the soil is, because I don't want to just put a load of stuff on top and then it turns out that the plants have only got that much. And the idea is I really want this to be my tomato and my tall crops so they can go up. Get some nice strings kind of set up. Now this side is the south facing side, so the sun kind of starts over there and comes across. So I want to just have slightly shorter things, and then that means the tomatoes and everything will have full height, full sun, and they shouldn't be shaded. The idea is mostly I'm going to cover this with some kind of membrane just to keep the weeds down. I've just got to get it all level. If anyone's got any tips for how to get this bit of ground nice and level without you know, having to dig it all over and rake it or anything like that, if you've got any like, little ideas for a little bit of energy saving, please do let me know. I'm thinking maybe I might just wood chip it, just chuck a load of wood chip on and then put the membrane on top of that and then put the pots on, and it might just save a bit of time. Once I've done that, it will be pretty much done. There is one other thing I've noticed, which is that this has sagged a little bit. I don't think I've put enough kind of screws into these battens, so I've got to do another little round of kind of pulling it tight and get it kind of double up all those screws to get it super tight, because it was really windy yesterday and I could really notice that this was flapping around quite a lot, whereas on the sides this is still quite tight. So yeah, the whole thing just might need a bit of tightening at the front, I think. Down this side, this is a perfect illustration. So this is the north facing side. You can see how it's in the shade now, and it will be in the shade most of the time. So what I'm going to do along here is hopefully just a little layer of slabs. I do need to source those slabs, and they're like gold dust at the moment. I can't find any. But hopefully this will just be a nice little, basically act as a buffer. So we've got the nice kind of main shared grass path there, and they will just run along and prevent weeds. Basically, one of the things I'm really worried about is trying to weed up against here and maybe getting a bit close with the strimmer, putting a massive hole in it or something like that. So slabs around the sides, slabs around the front, and then the other side, well, I'm not too sure about this one just yet, but I do wonder if maybe along this side, a little bed, just like a shallow bed, something with compost, and I don't know, maybe put a back on it so that it would kind of go under that base rail to stop, if you're doing a bit of hoeing, stop that going into the plastic. I don't know, any ideas welcome. A little flower border or something. You've got to be really careful with the height here, because this is where the sun's going to hit. If you grow up like loads of tall flowers like cosmos or something like that, you're going to be shading out the peppers. So maybe a little lettuce patch or low growing, that kind of stuff, I reckon. I think maybe a tiny little bed along there, and then maybe a wood chip path, and then I can have more beds along here. This does kind of, having put the polytunnel up, this does leave me with a bit of a weird space, a weird kind of size to grow in. This hot compost, I still need to decide where I'm going to put it. I haven't quite decided, and this is going to be a little patio kind of seating area. I think that's the plan. Anyway, I'm excited to actually put some of this into action. But the rest of the second plot, it's a weird one, this second plot. It really is. Very, very strange. One of the nice things, because this is, you know, the first year I've really tried making no-dig beds, and I was looking for some footage yesterday when I was doing the cover crop video, and I saw, oh, when this was first done, it looked so good. I saw some of the clips, maybe I can find them now. It's just been a bit of a shame in terms of its actual performance. I did manage to get 2 butternut squashes, that's nice. But yeah, one thing that is quite encouraging, I guess it's not amazing, but there's really not many weeds on here. So in that regard, the no-dig approach has kind of worked. And what I'm thinking with this second plot in particular is just that it needs a lot more organic matter and a lot more kind of fertilization. So for this lot, I'm not doing cover crops. I'm just going to cover this with manure. I'll keep the little wood chip paths, but I've just put a manure order in, and it was quite fortuitous actually. One of the plot neighbours is basically getting everyone together to do one big delivery from a local company. Apparently it's really good, well-rotted manure, and the main guy who's organised it used a ton bag of it on his new plot. He kind of inherited it in May, put down a ton, and his crops are amazing. So it does look like good stuff, and it's kind of, you know, we've seen it in action, so that's nice. And there's about 4 or 5 of us that are getting a big bulk delivery soon. So that is definitely going to be nice on here. One of the other little things with these raised beds, they've not been great with the flowers. We did try, but I'm going to resolve to keep this as a flower bed, and I'm going to take control of this. I'm going to finally do some flowers. I'm in discussions with Grown Local because he's thinking about starting to stock some flowers. So maybe we can have a little think and I can do some nice little cut flower bouquets and that kind of thing. I absolutely love this bushy cosmos plant. I love that it's still going. So like we've got one of these in the back garden as well, and it just looks amazing. I did actually earlier in the year sow a load of phacelia on here. It was maybe slightly old seed and literally nothing germinated. And I think it's because this horse manure that I've used from the compost centre, seeds don't like to germinate in it. So what I've done, that's what it looked like yesterday. And just yesterday I was kind of farting around, just doing little bits and bobs. What I did is I dug this over. Sacrilege. I've tried to make no dig beds, but I dug it all over, worked in that top layer of compost, gave it all a really good kind of, you know, a bit of that. And it's all kind of integrated. And then I've sown a load more phacelia seeds. So I'm interested to see how that kind of flowering cover crop does. And maybe this is going to be a bit of a better germination. With the no dig beds, I have found if you dig, you know, below that kind of top layer of mulch and then plant in, things are a lot more successful. There it is, a nice little update on the second plot. I'm not going to bother weeding it because I'm going to be covering it all with black plastic matting and horse manure. So there's some really weedy bits that just, you can leave. If you know you're going to cover, don't waste your energy. But I think I should do something today. And there's, oh dear me. There is on this plot just a bit that I've just not been able to bear to look at. So this old nursery and this L bed, it's just shocking, absolutely shocking. So I think this is, I've got to tackle this a little bit today. I do always think if you've got a really gnarly bit of your allotment, the best thing to do, because you know, I've got these two areas, the L bed and this nursery, just focus on one at a time. I'm going to worry about the nursery another time, but after I've done this L bed and just got it really nice and clear, the nursery will feel like a lot more of a manageable task, you know. Now you'll notice, right, this is the pea frame, and these are still the pea plants. It must have been done since around June. Yeah, so this is really lazy. And the thing is, this little L bed, I kind of love it because it's a little bit quirky, it's a little bit different, and I kind of built it to maximise this little weird bit of the allotment I had left over. But the thing is that I've learned over the years that if you can, it's good to basically make your beds as big as possible because you get a bit of economy of scale, kind of fewer edges, and it's much easier to just get one tool and you can run it over the whole thing much quicker and you don't have to faff around as long. This thing is like the opposite of that. I've got like an edge there, an edge here, an edge there, an edge there, an edge there, and an edge along the back and then another side edge. There's edges everywhere, and it's a huge amount of work to keep on top of it, which is why it looks like this. And maybe I should change that in the future, but for now, let's just tidy it up a little bit. I also have a little chilli here, and I tell you what, there are people who grow chilies outdoors quite successfully. This one is not an example of that. I don't know why. I think possibly you want to really like keep your chili in a consistent environment. You know, this one went from the greenhouse quite unceremoniously, just plonked outdoors, and it looks absolutely miserable. It was one of my Buena Malatas, wasn't performing very well, and there wasn't enough space for it. So I bunged it outside to see what it could do, and you win some, you lose some. But you know, if you can grow chili peppers outdoors, I take my hat off to you, because it is definitely a lot more challenging. But just a little example I thought worth showing as to why I grow all my peppers undercover, you know. Anyway, I'm going to stop yakking, and it's too hot, so I need to take my t-shirt off, and no one wants to see that, so I'll see you when this is done. The old Wolf Garden Miller has made very quick work of this. I cannot believe how bloody warm it is. This is ridiculous in October. First time using the Miller with sort of lots of larger weeds, lots of grasses and stuff, and I've been really shocked at how well it just kind of pulls it all together. It all gets caught on those hooks at the front, and really, really simple, but there we go. What an improvement. I now need to decide what to do with this in terms of cover crops or that kind of thing. I'm probably going to manure it and cover it, this one as well, because it's always been a bit rubbish in terms of the crops that grow in there, and you can kind of tell from the condition of the soil, it's just not great. I think that's about all the energy I've got time for today. Pretty pathetic, but nice to just do a little bit when you can. Let me know how you're doing with the kind of that change of season, you know, is it getting you down as well? If it is, you're not alone. There's lots of other people feeling that way, so hopefully you enjoyed this, and hopefully I'll see you again in the next one with an extra special thank you as well to my Chili Pepper Tip patrons, Tony, Bill, Pam, Louise, Mel, Michael, Denise, Socks in the Garden, and Andrew. Didn't count it out. I hope that's everyone. Thanks, folks.